Let me ask you something. How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? How many dreams are sitting quietly in the back of your mind? Because comfort had a louder voice than commitment. You see, it's easy to set goals. It's easy to dream big. But the real challenge is forcing yourself to do what's necessary when you don't feel like it. That's where the battle is won. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Most people wait. They wait for motivation. They wait for the mood to strike. They wait for things to feel right. But let me tell you something important. Winners don't wait. They act. They force themselves, even when it's hard, even when they're tired, even when nobody's watching. Because they understand something the average person doesn't. We must all suffer one of two pains. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One leads to freedom, the other to frustration. And today, we're going to talk about the first one. We're going to break it down. How to build the muscle of self-command. How to push past resistance. How to stop negotiating with excuses and start demanding more from yourself. Because the truth is, you will never achieve your goals by accident. You have to do it on purpose, by design, with relentless effort. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You need to show up, even when you don't want to. So if you're ready to stop talking and start achieving, then let's begin. Let me tell you something important. If you don't learn how to force yourself, you will never change your life. Now I know that sounds a little harsh, but sometimes we need a little harsh. Because life is harsh, and life is waiting on you to act. You see, the reason most people don't achieve their goals isn't because they're not smart. It's not because they don't have potential. And it's not even because they're not capable. No, it's because they've never learned how to push themselves when it gets uncomfortable. And let me tell you, success is almost always uncomfortable. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Let that sink in. Because if you're waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect conditions, you'll be waiting forever. Here's what I've learned. Motivation is temporary. But discipline is dependable. Motivation might get you started. But discipline is what keeps you going when the fire goes out. You can't trust your feelings. They'll lie to you. They'll tell you, sleep in. They'll tell you, start tomorrow. They'll whisper, you've done enough. But your goals aren't built on whispers. They're built on choices, built on effort, built on pushing yourself, on purpose. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. You've got to learn how to act independently of how you feel. That's the secret. Because one day, you'll wake up and you won't feel like working on your dreams. You won't feel like showing up early. You won't feel like staying focused. And if you listen to those feelings, you'll lose. But if you can say, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway, that's where life begins to change. That's where growth starts. When I was younger, I had dreams too, big dreams, but I was also good at procrastinating. I used to say things like, next week I'll get serious, or just give me a little more time. But weeks became months, and months became years. And one day I looked in the mirror and said, what happened to the man I said I was going to become? And that day, I got serious. Let me ask you, when will you get serious? When will you stop hoping and start building? When will you stop waiting for motivation and start forcing yourself into action? Because here's the truth. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. And most people choose not to do. They choose comfort over courage. They choose delay over discipline. And they choose excuses over execution. But not you. Not today. You're here because something inside you knows you were made for more. And if you want more, you've got to demand more of yourself. Not once. Not for a week. But every single day. You ready? 1. Set the goal. Don't be vague. Be clear. Specific. Know exactly what you want. 2. Make the decision. Not a wish. Not a maybe. A decision. The kind of decision that doesn't bend when life pushes back. 3. Create discipline triggers. Don't rely on willpower. Use routines, habits, timers, schedules. Build a world around you that supports your commitment. 4. Act. Whether you feel like it or not, because that's the key. Doing it anyway. Let me say that again. Do it anyway. That one sentence has changed more lives than any motivational speech ever could. Because when you act in the face of resistance, you build strength. You build credibility with yourself. And when you trust yourself, when you know you'll follow through, you become unstoppable. So from today forward, I want you to practice one thing. When the voice says, I don't want to, you say, that's why I must. That's self-leadership. That's power. That's how you start to shape your destiny. You don't need to wait. You don't need permission. And you don't need motivation to act. What you need is a reason, a strong one. Because if the reason is strong enough, you'll figure out the how. And if you keep showing up on the hard days, on the tired days, on the days when no one's clapping, you will win. Success is neither magical nor mysterious. It is the natural result of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. So what do you do now? Simple. You force yourself one step, one task, one habit at a time. And one day, you'll look back and realize it. That's when everything changed. I want to tell you something most people never heard. It is possible to become the master of yourself. To reach that point where you act not out of impulse, but out of direction. But you must train. Train yourself like a warrior would. Day after day, little by little, until discipline becomes the dominant voice in your life. Not emotion. Not mood. Not how you feel. But what you've decided. That's power. There's something magical about a person who has made a decision and then sticks with it. You can almost feel the difference in their presence. They don't sway like the leaves in the wind. They've planted themselves like a strong oak. Now, let me tell you, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up with steel resolve. You build it. And it starts the moment you stop being ruled by how you feel. Because feelings are tricky. Feelings come and go. But discipline shows up even when you don't feel like it. Let me share a hard truth. Most people are too emotional to succeed. They're too connected to their feelings. If they feel tired, they skip the work. If they feel discouraged, they quit the dream. If they don't feel motivated, they wait for another day. But listen, the success is not an emotional event. It's not a product of how inspired you are. It's a product of consistency. Consistency in showing up. Consistency in doing the boring work. Consistency in building the right habits. And all of that takes self-command. Now, don't get me wrong, emotions have a place. But they're not supposed to be the boss. They're not the captain of the ship. You are. And when you begin to practice discipline, when you start saying, I will do it, whether I feel like it or not, your life begins to change. Not just what you achieve, but who you become. Because self-command is the gateway to self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation for lasting success. You want to know what builds that self-respect? It's not applause. It's not praise. It's not titles or trophies. It's knowing you followed through. That you told yourself you'd do it. And you did. Even when you were tired, even when it was inconvenient, even when nobody clapped for you. And I'll tell you something, that kind of trust in yourself, it's rare, but it's worth everything. Because once you learn to trust yourself, the world begins to trust you too. You see, most people live backwards. They wait to feel like doing something before they do it. They say, when the motivation comes, I'll start. No. Start and the motivation will catch up, because action feeds emotion. Action creates momentum and growth. That's what keeps to growth, not comfort, not ease, but growth. There were days in my life early on when I didn't want to keep going. Days when I questioned if any of it was worth it. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel inspired. But I made a promise to myself that I would do it anyway. I would show up. I would keep my word. Not because I felt like it, but because I said I would. And when you begin to live like that, when you begin to let commitment lead instead of comfort, you begin to rise. You begin to build a life that's based not on emotion, but on execution. And here's the real gift: discipline over time becomes your friend. At first, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. It pushes you, but soon it becomes your protector. It shields you from regret. It carries you through storms. It gives you peace. Because there is peace in knowing you control your actions. You command your path. You're not at the mercy of moods. That's what self-command is. And it is the beginning of greatness. So if you want to achieve your goals, and not just dream about them, if you want to become someone you admire, not just someone who pretends to train yourself to act out of principle, not out of feeling. Feelings change. Principles remain. And the person who acts from principle, they become unshakable. That's who you want to be. So, the next time the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up anyway. The next time your mind tells you, let's do it later, do it now. The next time you feel tired, discouraged, or unmotivated, remind yourself, I run the show, not my feelings, and that is how success begins. Let me tell you what separates the successful from the unsuccessful. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not even timing. It's focus. Focused thinking. Focused action. You see, a scattered life leads to scattered results. And a scattered mind, well, it doesn't get very far. But when a person learns to focus, truly focus, their life begins to align like never before. You've got to understand something important. We live in a noisy world, a distracted world, a world full of people chasing 10 things at once and catching none. They jump from one shiny object to the next, but they never stay with anything long enough to win. And that's the tragedy. Not that they weren't good enough, not that they didn't have potential, but that they lacked focus. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you gave one goal your full attention? Not your half effort, not your leftover energy after distractions, but your undivided focus. If it's been a while, I've got news for you. That's where the problem lies. Because life will not reward you for how many things you try. It will reward you for how many things you finish. And finishing takes focus. You become what you think about most of the time. Well, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about your goals? Or are you thinking about what's trending, what's urgent, what's loud? Listen, don't let distractions become your daily diet. They look small, they look harmless, but they slowly erode your dreams. One wasted hour at a time. One unfocused day at a time. You have to train your focus like a muscle. It doesn't come naturally, no more than strength does. But if you discipline it and develop it, soon it becomes sharp like a laser. And a laser can cut through steel. That's what focused energy does. It cuts through resistance. It breaks through limitations. But you have to give it all your thought, all your heart, all your effort. You can't achieve greatness with a casual relationship to your goals. You must be committed, and commitment requires attention. You must say, this is what I want. This is where I'm going. And I will not stop until I get there. Not, I'll try a little bit and see what happens. Not, I'll juggle this with 20 other things and hope for the best. No, that won't work. Success is jealous. It demands your full loyalty. Now, here's the secret: focus is not just about what you do. It's about what you don't do. Sometimes success is not about adding more. It's about removing what doesn't matter. Cutting out the distractions, cutting out the noise, cutting out the habits that steal your energy. That's how you carve out space for what matters. And friend, let me tell you, you can't go far carrying everything. At some point, you've got to travel light. Let go of what's pulling you off course. Whether that's people, whether that's habits, whether that's your own self-doubt. There was a season in my life when I wasn't focused. I wanted too many things, tried to do too many things. And I learned the hard way, when you chase two rabbits, both escape. So I sat down, I took inventory of my life. And I asked myself, what really matters to me? Picked one goal, one purpose. And I said, this is it. And I gave it everything. You wouldn't believe how fast life begins to change it when you focus like that. Focus simplifies things. It brings clarity. It tells your mind, this is what we're about now. And when the mind is clear, your actions become sharp. Your habits align. Your energy gathers strength. And what was once difficult becomes achievable. Your future is waiting. But it's not waiting on more opportunities. It's waiting on more focus. Don't underestimate the power of focused effort. Don't underestimate what 1 year of deep, undistracted pursuit can do. Because when you truly focus on a goal, you become dangerous, unstoppable, intentional. And when life sees you serious, life starts to get out of your way. So, what's it going to be? More noise, more distractions, more wasted energy, or focus, because you have what it takes. You just need to point all of it in one direction. The art of focus is the art of success. Master it, and the world will be yours. There comes a point in every journey where you must make a decision, not a casual decision, not a wish, not someday, a decision so clear, so firm, so final that there is no going back. You decide once, and then you fight every day. Let me tell you something. Success is not for the undecided. It's not for the sort of committed. It's not for those who say, let's see how this goes. It's for those who say, this is it. I'm all in, no matter what. That's the power of a non-negotiable goal. You don't argue with it. You don't adjust it to fit your feelings. You don't back away when things get hard. You wake up every day and say, I may feel tired, but the goal stays the same. I may have failed yesterday, but the goal stays the same. People may not believe in me, but I believe in the goal. You see, most people treat their goals like preferences, like options, like nice ideas. But winners, real winners, treat their goals like vows. They say, this is non-negotiable. This is who I am now. Here's what I've learned. When you decide once, the battle becomes simpler. You stop asking, should I keep going? You stop entertaining other paths. Because the decision has already been made. Now it's just about showing up, and showing up, and showing up again. Every day. I remember saying to myself once, Jim, you're not going to keep quitting. This time you decide. I made a quiet promise. Nobody heard it. But I did. And from that day forward, I didn't negotiate with excuses anymore. The alarm went off. I got up. My plan said work. I worked. The day brought difficulty. I pushed through because I had already decided. Now let me share something with you. Discipline is easier when you've already made the decision. The hard part isn't the work. The hard part is the mental negotiation. When your mind is undecided, every day is a debate. You argue with yourself. You reason your way out of action. You bargain your way into delay. But when your goal becomes non-negotiable, the argument ends. You stop waiting to feel motivated. You stop needing applause. You just do the work. And that's when momentum starts to build. That's when the world begins to bend in your direction. Let me tell you something about non-negotiable goals. They test you. Oh yes. They test you. You'll be tempted to lower the standard, to shrink the vision, to take the easy way out. But the person who holds the line, the person who says, no, this is the goal, this is the standard, that person becomes unshakable. Not because life got easier, but because they stopped wavering. You see, most people make their goals conditional if they feel good, if it's convenient, if they're in the mood. But real transformation happens when you say, even if I'm tired, I'll show up. Even if I'm discouraged, I'll keep going. Even if no one sees it, I'll stay the course. That's the fight. The daily fight. And here's the paradox. Once you stop negotiating with your goal, it starts to give back. You begin to trust yourself. You walk taller. You speak with more conviction. Why? Because you know you don't break your word. That kind of self-respect is rare these days. But once you taste it, you'll never go back to half living. Now let's be real. The days will come when you don't feel like it. When your energy is low. When nobody is clapping. When results are still out of sight. But those are the days that shape champions. Those are the days you prove your decision wasn't a phase. It was a commitment. I love what I once said to a young man who asked me how to reach his goal. I said, decide once and then fight for it every single day. No excuses. No negotiations. Just the work. He didn't understand it at first. But 6 months later, he called me and said, that one sentence changed everything. And that's all it takes. One decision. One stand. One, I'm not quitting this time. So here's my question to you. What goal do you need to make non-negotiable? What dream have you flirted with, but never committed to? Today is the day to decide. Decide once. And then fight every day. Because when your heart and your habits align, when your words and your actions match, when your decision is final and your effort is daily, you become something this world rarely sees. A person who finishes what they start. And believe me, that kind of person, they don't need luck. They just need time. There's a kind of victory that doesn't come overnight. It's not loud. It's not flashy. And it doesn't make headlines. It's the kind of victory that comes from persistence. Day by day. Brick habit by habit. That's long-term victory. And let me tell you, it's the only kind that really matters. You see, anybody can get excited for a week. Motivation is easy to find on a Monday. But what about 6 months from now? What about when no one's watching? What about when the feel list begins? That's where the real cause success isn't one moment. It's not one win. It's not one lucky break. Success is relentless progress. Now I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Not once in a while. Not when it's easy. But every day. And here's the truth, most people lose not because they lack talent, but because they lack endurance. They don't stick. They don't last. They start strong, but they don't finish. Let me ask you something. Are you building a flash of greatness or a life of it? Because there's a big difference. One burns out. The other builds up. You have to decide. Are you in this for a moment, or are you in this for a legacy? Because when you're in it for the long haul, you start living differently. You stop chasing speed and start chasing consistency. You stop chasing applause and start chasing growth. You stop measuring yourself by what others think and start measuring your own standards. That's where progress lies. Quiet, steady, unstoppable. People often ask me, Jim, how do I keep going when it gets boring? When it gets tough? I tell them, learn to fall in love with the process. Because if you only love the reward, you'll quit before it arrives. But if you love the process, you'll keep going, even when no one sees. Even when nothing's happening on the surface. Even when you feel like you're not moving fast enough. Because the truth is, all great growth happens underground first. Roots grow deep before branches grow high. So how do you win long term? Let me give it to you straight. You don't need to do big things once. You need to do small things daily. The gym, the planning, the hard conversations, the quiet mornings, the early nights, the ordinary things done with extraordinary consistency. That's where success lies. That's where victory grows. And don't forget, progress doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's slow. But that doesn't mean it's not working. It just means you're growing. So many people give up at 40%. They give up at 60%. They give up right before the tipping point. But those who win long term, they keep showing up at 70%, at 80%, at 99%, because they understand something. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. So let me remind you of something powerful. Your life is a masterpiece in the making. But masterpieces take time. They take layers. They take revision. They take commitment. And above all, they take patience. Relentless progress doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. You'll fall. You'll get tired. But if you keep rising, If you keep correcting, if you keep going, you'll win. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you'll look back and say, look what I built. Look who I became. So here's the final word. If you want to achieve any goal, you've got to force yourself through the hard parts, discipline your emotions, focus on what matters, decide once and fight every day. And then you commit to relentless progress. That's the path. Not easy, but predictable. Because in the end, a success doesn't visit the strongest. It doesn't reward the luckiest. It crowns the one who stays, who grows, and who finishes. So start today, and don't stop. The life you want is waiting on the other side of consistency. And I promise you, it will be worth it. So here we are, at the end of this journey together. Remember, the power to change your life isn't waiting outside of you. It's inside, right now. It's the quiet voice that says, keep going, even when it's hard. Do the work, even when you don't feel like it. Stay committed, even when results are slow. This voice, this force inside you, is the difference between wishing and winning. I want you to hold this truth close. Every great success story is built on this bridge. It's built one plank at a time by the person who decided to force themselves forward. So when the doubts come, and they will, when the fatigue hits, and it does, when you want to quit and you'll feel that urge, remember why you started. Remember who you are becoming. Remember that every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward your dream. Take a deep breath. Make your decision again, right now, and then get to work, because your future is waiting, and it's brighter than you think. Thank you for walking this path today. Now, go build the life you were meant to live.